Good evening. It's now 6:31, and I call to order the regular meeting of the Victoria City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda tonight is announcements. The council will hold a workshop on Monday, May 9th at 5 p.m. to discuss potential uses for federal ARPA funds that the city has received. The council will also hear the results of our recent community survey, which is completed every 3 years. There will also be a special meeting of the council on Monday, June 13th for our annual volunteer recognition, outgoing Citizens Advisory Board member recognition, and the Community Builder Award presentation. That event will be held at Bayfront Park at 5 p.m. The council will also kick off our 2023 budget discussions on Monday, June 27th at 5 p.m. All meetings of the City Council are open to the public and held in the council chambers at City Hall unless otherwise noted. We encourage anyone wanting to attend our council meetings or workshops in person to contact our city clerk in advance. In other announcements, even though it may still feel like winter, we wanted to remind everyone that our compost site at the Old Public Works shop on Steiger Lake Lane is now open on weekends through the fall, and the site is open for Victoria residents only. We also want to invite everyone to our newest park, Wasserman Lake Preserve, on Wednesday, May 18th from 3 to 6 p.m. for a spring open house. Tours and information about the park will be provided, and both the city and Minnehaha Watershed District staff will be available to answer any park-related questions. And last but not least, our Senior Advisory Committee has been working hard preparing for our inaugural Senior Expo, which will be held on Tuesday, May 17th from 10 to 2 at the Lions Pavilion. All are welcome, and we hope to see you there. We have 2 proclamations this evening as well, and I will read both of them from here. Proclamation 2022-03, declaring May 2022 Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas mental health is important to our individual well-being and vitality, as well as that of our families, communities, and businesses. And whereas mental illnesses affect almost every family in America. And whereas this does not include the significant ripple effect on their families and friends. The impact of mental illness reaches families, neighborhoods, schools, the workplace, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and whereas stigma and fear of discrimination keep many who would benefit from mental health services from seeking help, and whereas an important part of educating the community and erasing stigma is raising awareness around the fact that mental health services are not simply a therapist or a medication prescriber. Caring for mental health may also include services and supports that help individuals recover holistically, inclusive of their social, vocational, and community contributions. And whereas mental health recovery not only benefits individuals with mental health disorders by focusing on their ability to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society, but also enriches the culture of our community life. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Victoria City Council does hereby recognize May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of Victoria, Minnesota. Our second proclamation is 2022-04 to recognize May 2 through 6, 2022 as Teacher Appreciation Week. Whereas teachers do their best to ensure the best learning curriculum for our students, whether in school or in a distance learning environment, working long hours and coming up with inspiring results to complicated obstacles so our students can succeed both in and out of the classroom. And whereas teachers are the key to unlocking the endless potential our children come to school with, supporting them to become well-rounded students, socially, emotionally, and academically prepared to achieve excellence. And whereas everyone benefits from educators who are empowered to lead, allowing them to best prepare young people to become contributing members of our community, thereby strengthening our democracy And whereas teachers play many roles in our students' lives as mentors, motivators, and listeners, creating lifelong ties with their students. And that assistance and guidance stays with our students long after their school days. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Victoria City Council recognizes May 2 through 6, 2022 as Teacher Appreciation Week. And now we have a special announcement by City Manager Dana Hardy, who will approach the podium. Ms. Hardy, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'd like to take a brief moment just to recognize and thank Community Economic Development Director Marty Dahl. As you all know, Marty has had an opportunity to move back to his roots in North Dakota. And tonight marks his last council meeting, and Wednesday, his last day with the city. I've personally worked with Marty in various capacities for about a decade, and I'm grateful that our personal and professional journeys have intersected. I think it's safe to say that I'm speaking for the entire team here at the city that his departure will not go unnoticed. He's been an amazing team member, respected by his peers and colleagues. He has been a fearless advocate for our entire community, our residents and businesses alike. Marty, you will be missed by the entire gang here at the city. I hope you will look back at your time here in Victoria as positive and see the imprints of the many projects that you've been involved in during your tenure here. The contributions that you have made in your short but mighty 2 years have been long-lasting and positive, from the dozens of development projects that you've been engaged in to planning for future growth, from streamlining our operations to enhancing our community engagement. You truly have improved how we at the city interact with developers, stakeholders, and our community members for the betterment of the whole. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your commitment, your dedication to Victoria. We're shining a bit brighter because of the contributions you have made. On behalf of the entire team here in Victoria, we wish you all the best, Marty. North Dakota is getting a rock star.
Yay. Thank you. Well said. And Marty, on behalf of the council, we appreciate your good hard work on our behalf and truly will miss you. Best wishes. The next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Council, can I get a motion to adopt the final agenda?
Motion to adopt final agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is that of open forum. Open forum is the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda and not in application form that will be coming to the council at a future date. We have no individuals who have registered in advance to speak, but I was wondering if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the council. Seeing no one, we will now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine, administrative, and don't require deliberation, or are housekeeping items that are required by law. Consent agenda items are approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Hardy, does staff wish to pull any consent agenda items for separate discussion and vote?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, staff would like to pull item 5.8 just to highlight some items in that background.
Thank you so much. Council, any other items for you that you would like a separate discussion? Or any member of the audience that would like to pull something from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Ms. Swanson, please let the record reflect that 5.8 has been pulled for further discussion. Council, can I have a motion for the balance of the consent agenda?
Motion.
And a second, please.
Second.
We'll give that second to Councilmember Hebert. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. On to item 5.8, removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and vote. Ms. Hardy, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm actually going to ask Ann, our Park and Rec Director. I can't do any titles correctly tonight. Our Park and Recreation Director to come on up and just highlight the project for our pickleball courts. And she's got some fun information just to bring out and share.
Thank you, Ms. Monkey. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I would like to make one note prior to talking about the pickleball courts is how much snow North Dakota just got in the last month or so. And have fun, Marty.
Yeah, rub it in. Yeah, duly noted. I hope you have a snow blower you're
Yeah.
bringing with you.
He might need a bigger tractor with the snow they're getting. Anyway, thank you. So as you are all aware, we've been working out the outdoor pickleball courts for a number of months. Earlier this year, we selected the firm of HTPO to provide design services and bidding and construction management of the project. The proposed courts are going at the just adjacent to the Victoria Recreation Center. We plan to put in 8 individual courts that will be completely all fenced in. It's a very tight spot with wetland and existing conditions, but we're pretty confident that it's going to look like it was there from the beginning of time. So the overall budget for the project, we had $500,000 budgeted in the CIP for this project. All in total, we're looking at about $495,000 with the construction estimate of about $383,000. So if the council is to approve this item this evening, we will go out to a bid over the next several weeks. And then once bids are received and returned, this item would come back before council either at the end of May or the first meeting in June. So we are on track, and hopefully construction will occur this summer, fall, if bids come in appropriately. So
All right.
with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Yeah, Ms. Monkey, is there any lighting on this?
Yes, there are
It is,
lights.
okay.
It is lit court.
And we hope to be playing the first game of pickleball there sometime this fall, or is that going to be delayed till next spring?
I wouldn't be surprised if it would be the spring of 24.
Spring of 24,
23,
okay.
sorry. Spring
Oh,
of
my goodness,
23.
yeah.
I jumped a year ahead.
Yeah, spring of 23, good.
Yes.
Well, so pickleball fans, stay tuned. We are working hard and fast on your courts. All right, any other questions? Councilmember Anderson.
Like tennis courts? You can show up and play, or is it just programming through?
It will be open to the entire community. There will be certain rules that are placed on the courts that can are done through the pickleball, and Councilor Hebert probably could speak to how it is usually done. But usually we have rackets set up where the next group has their rackets ready to go, and somebody comes in, somebody goes out. So
All right.
it's supposed to work smoothly and seamlessly, but we'll see.
Are we doing, you mentioned how it's wet there, right? So are we, we just did the tennis courts that we approved. Are we making sure that everything's going to be so that it won't be cracking?
Yes, we are building these to city standards that include sand and drain tile. But the wetland that I was talking about earlier is kind of off to the right, that we couldn't move any further towards that wetland without instigating a permit from the watershed district.
All right. Councilmember Hebert, as the representative of the Victoria pickleball community, do you have any comments?
I don't. Well, I do. It does work pretty smooth when you have a lot of people playing. Generally speaking, they're pretty respectful. You play one game and you move on. If you lost, you move on, and the winners come on and play. So it is pretty. It runs that way at Chanhassen and at Chaska as well. I just had a question looking at it. Is this what direction are they facing? I can't tell.
North-south.
North-south, okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep, and we spent a lot of time with some of the pickleball players that are familiar with us and that had actually wrote the petition to the council last year. So we engaged them with our consultant and got input from them, and for the most part, I think we've included everything, all of their wishes within that design and budget, so.
Wonderful. Well, we'll look forward to that being completed. Any other questions, council?
Can we get it done this year?
We'll sure try. Weather is a big factor, always is, so. Yep.
We should
Whatever warms up.
we should have Councilmember Hebert play the first game ceremonial.
We can certainly do the ceremony pickleball game. with
Indeed.
All of the council members.
Oh, boy. I played pickleball. You don't want me on your team. Just saying. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else from council? With that, I will take a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We're now moving on to our regular agenda, and we have several items on the regular agenda this evening. Item 6.1 is the annual State of the Library update. Presenting this evening is Heidi Hoks from the Carver County Library System. Ms. Hoks, please join us. Welcome.
Actually, there'll be two of us presenting.
Is Patrick going to join us as well?
Patrick is going to be joining us, and he looks so fancy schmancy tonight.
He does. You know, Patrick always dresses for the occasion in a suit,
does.
tie, and his tennies. I like that.
That's right.
Sneaks.
That's right. When we were here last year, we were talking about doing a pivot, and it was a hard pivot. But what we learned from doing that hard pivot was that we could evolve instead and make the journey much more pleasant. You'll see in your annual report, which is a Z-fold, opening it up, you will find a timeline that talks about all that we did, and you'll find a little extra from each of our major teams talking about what they've done to make this pivot and this evolution so seamless for everyone. So much so that the number of cards that were registered to patrons more than doubled last year from the previous year. The number of children from September through December, when we opened up our doors to in-person programming, the number of children coming to story times was over 5,000. People were waiting to come back, and all the circulation went up and keeps going up. We're very pleased to be open again, but I think one of the things that is most important that we do, and we learned from the COVID experience, was people like to have their individual libraries remain individual, serving their individual needs. And so each of our libraries has programming, has services that, yes, are like the others, but also that serve the individual needs, the needs of Victoria, your residents' needs. So to talk more about that, I'm going to call on Patrick Jones. And Patrick, will you take the mic?
Thanks. Hi,
Good evening, Mr. Jones. Welcome.
I'm Patrick Jones, the branch manager of the Victoria Library and also the Chanhassen Library. I'm going to very briefly describe what happened in 2021 and tell you a little bit about what's going on in 2022. This one? Alyssa,
Check the side to see if it's on. It might not be.
that would do it.
There we go.
So, Victoria has the highest circulation percentage of children's material of the 6 Carver County library systems. As you see here from this beautiful pie chart, 72% of the materials that check out of the Victoria Library, that go out of Victoria, are children's materials, which is, again, the highest in the system, and it's actually a higher percentage than went out in 2019. Just over a year and 2 months ago, we opened the doors back. We're helping to welcome people back. We had to make a few changes in what the building looked like. As you see Tricia in the penalty box there for 2 minutes. People were very, very grateful for the service we were able to provide while the building was closed for actual use, while we were doing the curbside pickup, which was very popular. And we just showed you a few of the thank you notes that we received. Through all of this, it was the support of our friends of the library, which was very important to us. We continued to meet 5 times a year to discuss ways they could support the library, including having their first ever book sale, which raised over $400. The Friends also joined me at the farmers market when we did some outreach so they could meet members of the community and talk up both the library and the Friends. The Friends will be joining me as well at the Senior Expo, where the library will have a table, as mentioned, on May 17th. A very creative group of people who work downstairs. We have a children's librarian, Kristen, and an adult librarian, Susan, as well as clerical people such as Tricia, who do an excellent job of doing displays and merchandising the collection. We did some adult programming this year in a room that looks vaguely familiar to you. We did a genealogy program and an arts program. What we're doing with programs here at Victoria are small programs that are high touch, that only have 10 to 14 people, but have a great deal of interaction with them. That's for the adult programs. As for children's programs, we do lots of story times. We do 2 a week, and about once a month we do a special story time. You have a photo here from the firefighter story time. I don't know if Andrew read a book that day or not to the kids, but his staff always shows up. They bring a fire truck, and it's always a good time. In September, we did most of our story times outside, and which allowed us to dance in bubbles, although we actually dance in bubbles on the inside as well. We also do other kinds of programming for children. We have working with Eastern Carver County Schools, we have the ECFE program, and then we also were able to do this summer, back when it was warm, a great deal of story walks. Halloween was a real treat, as we had about 100 people walk through the door for trick-or-treating, all dressed up, and we had something to give to them. And then we ended the year with our New Year's Eve party, where children celebrated the upcoming New Year with stories and songs, and they marched around here. You can probably still see their footprints. So we had a very constructive year. We have 3 things that you need to know about that are coming up. On May 21st, we will be having both another library book sale downstairs, and then outside we'll have the Rowe Family Singers. That will be coming up. This summer, we'll have 4 youth programs. We're not doing them in all the libraries. Victoria was one of the libraries that were chosen to do those programs. And then the last thing is that the Friends of the Library are continuing to meet and continuing to support your library. Questions or comments?
Council, anything for Ms. Hoks or Mr. Jones?
I had a question.
Councilmember Black.
With the book sale, are you taking donations of books for the book sale?
We'd be happy to take donations of books, audiobooks, CDs, or DVDs. Yeah,
can those
just bring them in.
Brought to the library here?
Yes, anytime. You don't
Thank
have to
you.
bring them a special time.
Okay.
And we will
That's
store
good to
them
know.
and have them ready for sale.
Okay.
Thank you.
And one other question.
Yeah.
Are you going to have any type of programming for senior citizens?
We did some senior programming when we did lots of technology programming, and at the time, it just wasn't an audience for it. Although when I'm at the Senior Expo, I have a chance to chat people up and see if we can find an audience for some sort of technology program. I know being on the Senior Advisory Committee, that one of the members is very interested in a way for seniors to learn technology, and we seem like a good fit for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other comments? Councilmember Gunderson.
How do you feel about the current space? Are you limited in programming because of it, or what
We're
do you
able
feel?
to do story times with the current space we have with about the number of people who show. It's tight. This morning we had 18 kids, 14 adults, so that is a lot of people in a small space. When we do other kinds of programmings, we have to do it outside or up here. So we do not have a good program space that is library specific. We also don't have a meeting room space for groups, which we get asked for. I usually work out of Victoria twice a month. I seem to get asked for it every time I'm out here, a group that wants to meet, and I have to refer them to Chanhassen meeting rooms, and we have no small study spaces. So, long answer to a short question is more space could certainly be utilized.
Thank you. Other questions, Council? Anything else? Terrific. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank
It's always a
you.
pleasure to see you. Thank you for the good work that you do.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate everything.
We thank you to our library friends for being here this evening. There's no action that the council needs to take. It was just informational, so we thank them for that. Item 6.2 is a request to award a construction contract for the fire mezzanine build-out. Presenting this evening is our Fire Chief, Andrew Hager. Chief, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight before you for consideration are several items related to the fire station mezzanine build-out project. So as you recall, at the March 14th council meeting, council authorized staff to begin a public bidding process for that project. Bids are received, and on April 14th, a public bid opening was held. 7 total bids were received, ranging from $409,750 to $491,997. That low bid is $59,107 under the architect's estimated project cost. So staff is recommending that council award that contract to Century Construction in that amount, and that's their base bid amount. So in addition to the base bid, there's several other project costs that would go along with it. Construction contingency is recommended for any change orders or any items like that that may arise. In this case, $30,000 is being recommended to set aside for that. And then also $70,000 for FFE, which is fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. So the office furniture and those types of things necessary to outfit the space once it's constructed. Original project costs, again, estimated last year in the space needs plan were $370,000. Again, we're coming in higher for various reasons, inflation, market trends, all that kind of stuff. But also we've expanded the scope of the project to best utilize the available space that's up there. At the last council meeting, council also directed staff to research different avenues to fund this, including ARPA funds. So staff is recommending funding this through several items, including the capital improvement plan, some of the ARPA funds, and also year-end assigned fund balance. So with that, staff's recommendation would be to award the fire station mezzanine bid to Century Construction, authorize staff to enter into a contract with the contractor, then also purchase the necessary fixtures, furnishings, and equipment for the space. With that, I will stand for any questions, and then I'll note that Quinn Hudson from CNH Architects is with us tonight and can also field any technical questions or anything related to the project.
I have a question. So when you looked at the bids, roughly, I don't know, 90,000 between the high and the low, what were the differences between them? That seemed like a pretty big variance. Do we feel like for what we're getting, the value for 409 is
Quinn, could I have you field that one?
At the same level as the 491?
Mr. Hudson, please. Welcome. State your name and
Quinn
position.
Hudson with CNH Architects.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, to speak to the address of the 409 being good value and a good contractor, we did research and check into that contractor. One of the reasons we found that they were able to provide a price that's significantly lower than some of the others with their self-performing some good portion of the work themselves. And so that is part of what.
As opposed to subcontracting?
So, many general contractors subcontract all parts of the work and just supervise and manage. In this case, for the size of the work, it worked out for them to self-perform cabinetry and carpentry and the demolition portions themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Council, other questions? This is a great demonstration of our growing community, for sure. All right, with that, Council, I will take a motion, please.
Motion to adopt.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. 6.3 is our first quarter 2022 status update on our adopted strategic plan. Presenting this evening is Assistant to the City Manager, Alyssa Swanson. Ms. Swanson playing double duty this evening, please.
Hello, Mayor, members of City Council. This year we are bringing you the quarter one update for the 2021-2023 strategic plan. This process began in March of last year with the City Council workshop, and the fruits of the workshop session was this 3-year strategic plan that adopted 8 strategic priorities. Within those 8 priorities, we have 47 outcomes and 123 initiatives. I am playing double duty here, sorry. And then within those 123 initiatives, you can see on the screen that we have completed 46 of those. 35 of the 46 are technically ongoing initiatives, which is important to note since they will take significant staff time to continue those programs, services, or initiatives along. An example of this would be the Digital Community Bulletin Board, which is now live on our Mediacom Channel 8. It was launched this quarter, but will require staff time to maintain and update the board. Out of the 77 left, about 54 initiatives have been started, and a full progress update can be viewed in the staff report. But with that, I would like to draw your attention, City Council, to the city's strategic planning dashboard. For those in the audience or for those at home, you can access the dashboard by visiting the city's website at ci.victoria.mn.us. Hover over the Governments tab near the top of the screen, and then using your mouse, click Strategic Plan in the drop-down menu. If you don't mind me one moment, I'm going to pull up the dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are. Now, Mayor, Council, as you're familiar, the city began to supplement our strategic priority spreadsheet report with these quarterly spotlights. Quarterly spotlights use storytelling matched with data to showcase city initiatives, programs, services that may or may not be covered within the strategic priorities. In Q1 2022, staff chose to highlight 2 city initiatives. First, welcoming our new citizen commissioners and committee members to their positions. It also speaks towards the importance of these committees as city involvement and engagement overall improves the quality and responses to public decision making. The second spotlight is regarding the special vehicle usage now being allowed on city streets and city right-of-way with the use of a permit. Scroll down here. Here we are. The spotlight walks through the public process of amending ordinance, starting with local decision authority being passed down from state statutes, and then progressing into the public feedback and open workshops you all had through the last year, needing to complete prior to making this amendment to the ordinance. So in addition to the larger spotlights, staff also highlighted some smaller projects within this report. We call them mini spotlights. This quarter, we chose to highlight the new strength equipment at the Victoria Recreation Center, the city doing our checks and balances through annual consultant reviews, and the city's efforts to reduce the cost of city services through grant opportunities. And I would like to point out in Q1, the city received a total of $60,000 in grant funding. So that is also highlighted in the staff report. So Mayor, Council, members of the public, again, if you'd like to read more or would like to see additional information related to the spotlights throughout the year, you can check this out in our strategic planning dashboard. Again, you can find it on the city's website. But with that, I will stand for any questions.
Terrific, thank you. I want to just reiterate what Alyssa said regarding our website. We have done a lot of work. The communications department and the city staff has done a lot of work on our communications in general and our website specifically, so it does have a lot of information out there. So I encourage people to go out and explore and poke around out there. There's a lot of information about your city and your community. Council, with that, questions, comments?
I just have one.
Councilmember Black.
We also have an app for that. So you can download it on your phone and have access to everything. I've spoken with some of the people that have asked me questions, and I go, well, you know, we have an app, and they go, oh. So we have an updated website that gives you all the information that we're doing, plus there is the app that has the links to everything as well.
All right. Other comments? Councilmember Hebert.
I have a question. I was looking at the spreadsheet with all the details and all the strategic items, right? And as a continuum process improvement, are we coming across things that we thought a year ago or a year and a half ago would add value to the city? As it turns out, maybe it's not, given the amount of time we're spending on it. Just so we're always challenging ourselves to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the city. Just want to know if we had any data or any items that we thought was a good idea, but turns out maybe it's not the best use of our time.
I'm looking at our city manager to see if she has any response.
Ms. Heidi, anything come to mind?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Ibarra, members of the council. There's nothing that comes to mind that in the space of, boy, we thought this was important for us to be spending time on, and we shouldn't be spending time on that. So I think we probably have the opposite problem. There's a lot of things we want to be spending time on and a lot of priorities in a growing community that it's really challenging for staff to do all the things that we want to be doing and that have been laid out in the strategic plan. Even we knew when we adopted the 3-year strategic plan that in 3 years it was aggressive. So I think we probably have the opposite problem. But that being said, part of the method to the madness in bringing back these quarterly updates, which was introduced new this year, was to make sure we're having that regular check-in. Back in 2019, we added basically the check boxes. So if you're looking at our agendas, each agenda has one of those strategic priorities, those buckets or categories that we've identified, and we have 8. So technically, it's kind of a tool for us to constantly check in that if staff are working on something, which one of those 8 priorities does this item fit? And if it doesn't fit, doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing it, but it probably means we need to be talking about, should we be spending time here? Because there are emerging items that might be coming up or things may shift. And so that's our tool to make sure that we're checking in routinely to make sure that what we're focusing on is the right path that council has set for the community.
Thank you.
All right. Council, questions, comments? All right. There's no action to be taken on this. It's just an update only. So with that, we will move on to the next item, which is 6.4, a sketch plat review for Huntersbrook 3rd Edition. Presenting this evening in his swan song, Community and Economic Development Director, Marty Dahl. Mr. Dahl, the floor is yours.
I like this one.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I appreciate the kind words earlier in the meeting. But before you at the moment is the sketch plat review for the Huntersbrook 3rd Edition. This application was submitted by Tradition Development, who you will recall has an approved Huntersbrook 1st Edition that is currently under construction in our South Growth area. So just as a typical reminder, the sketch plat process, there are no approvals or actions that are taken during this meeting. It really is just an opportunity for the both the Planning Commission previously and now the City Council to provide input and feedback on what is being proposed. Speaking of the Planning Commission, property owners within 350 feet of this subject property were notified and invited to participate in last week's Planning Commission meeting. There was no one that attended to speak on the project. So just to outline the area that we're talking about, the area that is being proposed for development is portions of outlots D and G, which is located in this area and was part of the outlots created from the Huntersbrook 1st Edition, as well as the entirety of outlot I, which again was an outlot created as part of the Huntersbrook 1st Edition, and the addition of a portion of the property at 10860 Victoria Drive. This is a parcel that the applicant has recently purchased and now is included as part of this proposal. In total, it is 47 acres with 34 acres of those developable. These areas are heavily wooded, and the upland areas that are available are primarily agricultural. There will be a tree survey, as with all of our developments, required as this development moves forward. There are several wetlands as well, and this development would be within the Carver County WMO, so will be subject to their rules. Related to the comprehensive plan, the comp plan does guide this entire area for low density residential, and with the current approximate 34 net acres and 77 proposed lots, the unit per acre count comes out to 2.26, which is within that low density residential range. As with many of our south growth area projects, there is going to be some annexation required with this proposed development. So as you may recall, the outlots that were part of Hunters Brook First Edition, D, G, and I, were previously annexed as part of that development. At the time, they were zoned PUD. However, the portion of 10860 Victoria Drive is currently within Laketown Township and will require annexation and zoning as part of the development process. Staff has communicated with the applicant that an annexation petition should be submitted prior to or concurrently with preliminary plat. And as with the Hunters Brook First Edition, the applicant is proposing to zone the development PUD. So this is the current concept plan layout of the homes that are being included. We'll talk about some of these areas in a little more detail. This was also included in your background packet, and we can come back to this slide when we get into the questions and discussion portion. So zoning and lot regulations as are being proposed in this development, there are currently 57 villa type product lots that are being proposed. Those are being proposed in this area of the outlot I and into the additional needing to be annexed parcel. Those properties are proposed to be, or those lots, excuse me, are proposed to be 6875 for the Smithtown lots, 6160 square feet for the Maxwell lots, both having a minimum lot width of 55 feet. The Smithtown lots being a little bit deeper than the Maxwell, and then 7.5 foot side yard setbacks, 25 foot front and rear for both of those, 20 foot corner, and a max impervious surface of 50%. The lots to the north and the cul-de-sac that will actually be coming off of the roadway network from the Hunters Brook second edition are the tradition lots that were previously proposed as part of that development and approved. Those include 9,800 square foot minimum lot areas, 76 foot wide lots, 130 foot depth, 7.5 feet each side on the side yard, 25 front, 30 rear, 20 corner, and again, 50% max impervious surface. The information below is also included in your background packet, but again, just some comparison to some of the recent lots that were approved. The Marsh Hollow Villa products that are just to the south of this area. And then, as I mentioned, the tradition homes as part of the Hunters Brook First Edition. Staff has identified a couple of lots that we're hoping to continue to work with the applicant on either refining or looking at redrawing or potentially eliminating. One of them being lot 18 up in that northern cul-de-sac area, has just a bit of a unique lot shape and kind of crammed back in behind those lots. So continuing to talk about that lot, as well as some potential setback issues with lots 27 and 28 is currently shown. Lot 27, this blue line is actually the shoreland building setback line. So staff prefers that line be outside of the lots. It does not need to be. It's not required to be by code, but it does create better lot conditions if you don't have that limitation. And then the red line with this southern lot is a wetland buffer, which it sounds like based on the Planning Commission discussion, this wetland is likely to be filled, which likely improves that lot condition at that point in time. But the applicant has been open to continue discussions on trying to refine those and make those a better condition of lots. So moving on to buffers and screening. So as the council knows, that typically when we have a double fronted lot, meaning that both the front and rear yard of a lot abuts a roadway, we do require berming and buffering. The length of that buffer areas or depth of that buffer area is dependent on which road is the road in the rear. So in this situation, had the lots on the south side of this drawing been drawn up to the roadway, they would have required a 25-foot buffer. In lieu of a new buffer zone or required planting or trying to put a berm in, the applicant is proposing a tree preservation outlot that will retain, as you can see from this aerial, a number of the significant trees in this area to serve as that buffer. And staff believes that is a preferable alternative
to taking those trees out and starting from scratch. There will also be some landscaping that will be required and buffer on any of the corner lots that have been identified, 15 foot, as well as required plantings. And the applicant is also proposing, as I noted, the typical corner setback will be 20 feet, but is proposing a 25-foot setback from the collector road on the south to provide a little bit of additional space for the homes. This area does not have a park identified in the comprehensive plan. In fact, a park is planned for the development directly to the south of this one, so the applicant will be asked to satisfy their park dedication, approximately 2.13 acres, with fee in lieu of land dedication. The applicant will likely also be requesting some park credit, which is allowed by code for some trail construction, and we'll show you where those trails are intended to be in just a minute. Access to this development is intended to be provided through an extension of Creekside Lane. So as you'll recall, Creekside Lane is going to be constructed to this point as part of the Marsh Hollow development, which is just to the south of this. The applicant would intend to extend Creekside Lane as well as a loop road that will serve the homes in this area and connect back to Creekside Lane. And then the lots shown on the northern part of the sketch plat will be served from a cul-de-sac extension of Scenic Loop Run, which is one of the roadway networks, part of the original Hunters Brook development. There is an area to the south of, or the west, excuse me, of this loop road and north of the collector that's currently proposed with private drives that has 10 to 12 lots included with an emergency access connection connecting to Creekside Lane. The city code does limit private drives to 3. Staff does believe there's a potential opportunity to exceed 3, but we do believe that 10 to 12 and kind of this looped road situation is probably not ideal. So we've continued to have some discussions with the applicant on some ways that we can try to reduce the number of homes on this private drive area. A few different solutions or ideas thrown out there. So, and again, the applicant has indicated a willingness to continue to work with staff to try and improve this condition so we don't have an area with several homes on a private drive. 6 foot concrete sidewalks are being proposed on one side of all local streets. They're being shown in blue below. There is also 8 foot bituminous trail, and it is not in purple, it's in orange. But there would be a trail connection on Creekside Lane. One of the items we'll continue to work through with is this project proceeds to preliminary plat is just determining how far that needs to extend to provide pedestrian crossing, because again, as you'll recall, the development to the south will be constructing trail along the south side of the collector road. So we'll continue to talk about where exactly that needs to terminate. And then the applicant is also proposing a trail connection across the Chaska Creek area from this development up into the Hunters Brook first and second developments. As I noted earlier, there is significant high-quality tree stands within this area. The proposed concept plan does provide for that preservation of a large stand for that buffer along Creekside Lane, but it does show elimination of many of the remaining trees on the site. Staff continues to encourage the applicant as they move further along in their plans to really try to preserve as many of those trees as possible, try to avoid ponding in those tree areas if feasible, just to really try to protect as many of those significant trees as we can. And then any removed trees will be subject to the city's replacement pursuant to our revised tree preservation and replacement ordinance. Utilities, sanitary sewer is planned to be extended from Marsh Hollow, the development from the south. There is additional engineering that's needed to determine if the elevations in that northern cul-de-sac are such that gravity sewer can be provided to the northern lots. I think it was indicated in your background packet that if they cannot, there may be a potential for the need for a lift station or grinder pumps. The good news is that the preliminary engineering does appear that gravity will be able to be served from there, so that eliminates that issue. Water is planned to be extended from Marsh Hollow and Hunters Brook First Edition, and engineering staff and Public Works is recommending creating a looping system in that area. As was noted, the property is within the Carver County WMO and is subject to their rules. It is also within the tributary shoreland area of Chaska Creek, and so it is subject to the city's shoreland ordinance. The requirements in a creek or tributary shoreland area are a little less stringent than they would be typically when we're looking at lakes and areas. So it's most of the items that need to be looked at are just ensuring that impervious surface is out of the shore impact zone, which the proposal doesn't have any, and again, that creek setback line being met for buildings. And then stormwater features, like with all of our developments, wetlands and buffers will need to be deeded to the city, and access needs to be provided to all stormwater ponds in accordance with city standards. So again, this presentation was provided to the Planning Commission last week, and just a couple of highlights from their conversations. They also agreed that there was some concern related to the current proposal for the private drives. There were some questions about how and who will maintain them and how they'll be maintained, how emergency vehicles will operate, etc. They did commend the applicant for preserving the tree buffer along Creekside Lane. There was a question about whether or not Creekside Lane would be platted as a right-of-way, because it is currently, with the development to the south, included in an easement, and it will in fact be platted as right-of-way as part of this development. The Planning Commission also had a desire not to need to construct an additional lift station, which again, as I noted, the preliminary engineering shows that it likely will not be needed. Some questions about water rates, also some additional discussion related to the compromised lots that staff had identified. Question about if side yard setbacks or lot widths can be increased if any lots are removed for ponding. Question as to whether trail connectivity was adequate, and then also stress the desire to see as many trees preserved as possible. So with that, staff again has identified a few items for the council to consider as part of their discussion. Again, looking at those compromised lots, having the applicant continue to work with staff to revise the private drive area, working with staff to determine the final placement of the Creekside Lane Trail, making tree preservation a high priority on the plans, making sure that an annexation petition gets submitted prior to or concurrently with preliminary plat, and then adhering to all the sewer, water, and stormwater management recommendations from the city engineer and the Carver County WMO and DNR. And with that, Mayor, that concludes my presentation. We do have representatives from the development group in the audience that I'm sure would be happy to answer questions as well.
Perfect, thank you. Council, questions, comments? Councilmember Black.
Yes, I have a couple questions. With the large amount of significant trees that we have to deal with here, and we're trying to preserve that, how are we recording that so that we know how many trees are needing to be replaced?
Yeah, Commissioner Black, Mayor, members of the, or Commissioner, excuse me, Council Member Black, Mayor, members of the council. We do require a tree survey with all of our developments. So it is required that a landscape architect or someone else qualified goes out and actually measures and tags any significant tree. That inventory is then provided to the city in a form of a spreadsheet, as well as a surveyed map area showing those trees and numbers. And then the applicant will typically denote which trees they are intending to remove, which trees they are intending to save. They'll provide a calculation based on the city's code. Staff will verify that calculation, that it's matching up with how we determine our replacement. And then all of that information is included with the approved construction plans.
Okay. And then the other question I had was the area with the private drive. How are we working to resolve that?
Yeah, Councilmember Black, Mayor, I may defer to the applicant if he wants to speak a little bit about some of the conversations we've had about some ideas and seeing where they're at currently with that.
Mayor,
Can I just follow up on that question as the applicant comes up? And I just wonder about what is the constraint? Is the constraint on the space for the right-of-way, or what's the constraint? So maybe you can speak to that too.
Thank you. Please, can you identify
thank
yourself
you.
for us?
Mayor and Council, Pat Rossi with Tradition Development in Lakeville, Minnesota. The constraint with respect to the private road is just the amount of available room that we have for both a minimal lot size and a minimal, or I should say a standard street right-of-way of 60 feet. There just isn't room to do that in this location. Because of the natural amenities, we have the large wetland in the center of that western portion, and close proximity to a slight bluff going down to the Chaska Creek. I think that we did some layouts early on in the process. We've been sketching on this for nearly a year now that may have gotten a public street of maybe a 50-foot right-of-way in front of those 6 lots that back to the creek. But coming along the west side there was just no way to do it. So we've done private streets in other areas that have similar constraints, and I think even the city of Victoria does allow for private streets under space considerations. However, we realize that west portion is problematic and are working with the staff to come up with other solutions for that area, which may be just outlotting those most western 4 lots and waiting until development occurs further to the west. Yeah, we've seen some layouts, not done by us, but I believe by the landowner to the west, that show a cul-de-sac coming north off of Creekside Lane, directly north on the property line. And it appears that, if we could work a deal with that, or with that landowner, we may be able to bring the lots forward in the future. The problem in the short term is the extension of the collector roads. They're expensive, and we have an 1/8 mile segment that the property, the Bovee property that we bought to the west of Dave Gestak's land there, and to bridge across the area that Marty's hitting with the cursor now, we've got an 1/8 of a mile, and it's 100% wetland right up to the south edge. So there's no possibility to really build any lots on the south side of the road. So it just becomes a financial exercise. Obviously, the value of the lots helps to pay for the infrastructure and the road, but I think we'll get there, if not immediately with phase 1 at some point in the future.
Okay, so we could probably do some of the homes and then wait until future
Possibly.
development.
Now, yeah, I don't know what type of homes we would do along that western side in the future. We have this laid out as villas, which are full complement of association services for the residents there, with lawn care and snow care and landscaping.
Villas are very much in demand right now. So.
They sure are. They sure are, and we've had good success with them in multiple developments. Very high demand, sell quickly. It's possible we could build villas there, but at this point we don't control the land to the west, and the layouts the conceptual layouts that we've seen are for traditional single family homes there. So if that were the plan in the future, we may replat those outlots as traditional single family rather than villas.
Okay.
But only time will tell there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Black, anything else?
No.
All right. Other questions?
I have a question on the lift station. I know you said that we strongly believe that one wouldn't be needed. In the event that there is one needed, just say for whatever reason, is that on the city's responsibility?
Yeah, Commissioner Hebert, Mayor, members of the council, that will likely be determined more concretely as grading plans and things are done as part of preliminary plat. So prior to or as part of a preliminary plat process, we should have an even better idea to where we can say yes or no, that one is going to be needed. I believe that in this scenario, it's likely the applicant would pay for the construction of that if it is needed, but the city would be likely responsible for the ongoing maintenance of that structure, which is one of the reasons I think we all would like to try to avoid it if at all possible. And again, knock on wood, it seems like we're going to be able to at this point, and we should know for sure as the plans progress.
All right, Councilmember Hebert, anything else?
No.
All right, Councilmember Gunderson, any comments?
I don't know if it's for who it's for, but at what point do we start to ask, are we overbuilding on villa styles? Is there maybe it's for Dana or Marty, but is there a number that we're looking to get to in diversity? Because we have a lot of villas, and I don't want to run into a situation where we've built all these villas and now they're not the thing anymore, and the city is stuck with them. And then we're stuck going with some, we're still stuck with them and they don't sell, or, the values go down. So I want to make sure this is the best style of housing for this area, and if it's not, what are the alternatives that we can come up with? And maybe that's a longer conversation at a workshop talking about our housing stocks, but we certainly they're a good product, and I like the pictures, the renderings online that are in the council packet. They're nice to look at. So that, they're a good-looking product, which is good. But how many gets to be too many?
Yeah, Councilmember Gunderson, Mayor, members of the council, I may again defer to Patrick just to talk a little bit about their decision-making and the product type and what they're seeing in the market for those.
Mr. Rossi, question, are they like 2-bedroom, 2-bath? What is that villa?
Well, I don't know if they're 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I can say in terms of square feet, depending on the style that's selected, they can range anywhere from 1,600 feet all the way up to 3,900 square feet. The smaller one would be a slab on grade, and we've done a few of those, but the vast majority have a full basement. And the square footage is very deceiving from looking at the front end. The buildings are narrow along the street, but they're very, very deep builds. So we get a lot of square footage with the narrow frontage. I'll say with this particular site, I mentioned we did several different layouts here going back over a year, and did several single-family layouts here. And I think what got us to look harder at the villas was probably our partnership that we have with Gagne Homes at the site at Huntersbrook, where we don't have any villas. We're all traditional single-family, our tradition, heritage, and revere line. And they had an interest in doing some villas there. We initially did kind of a split layout here, and because of the size constraints on the western portion, we did a split layout with villas on the west side and traditional single family and large 80-foot wide lots through the eastern guest stack portion of the lot. Shared that with Gagne and our internal home builders, and they were the ones that made the request to do an all villa layout. They think there's a market out here. They think that there's a lot of activity in that sector with the homeowners that are looking for essentially the carefree style living.
Councilmember Gunderson, anything else?
Yeah, and this can come out sideways or is not meant to, but full dug basements to me doesn't sound like a villa. It sounds like a house, a single family house. And putting it under a villa development seems to want to skirt our side yard setbacks and shoehorn more larger homes that are meant for families versus what I envision a villa to be, which is targeted at retirees, people, empty nesters, smaller footprints who want that lifestyle, which is fine to me, but a 3,800 square foot, 3-level house is not a villa to me. And so where are we at on how many of those you're putting in the southern portion of this property that you said they got full dug basements?
As of right now, we consider them all to be full dug basements. With respect to the side yard setback, and I've got to look over to our consultant engineer here, but I believe
We have the same setbacks.
same side yard. Yeah, so our side yard setbacks are 7.5 feet, and that's the same dimension that we had for all of the lots in Huntersbrook, and then the replatted traditional single-family lots on the north side of the creek. So similar spacing from the lot lines.
Councilmember Gunderson, anything else? Councilmember Roberts.
I guess my only question would be, I mean, I like the idea, right, of the smaller houses, right? Like, right, we have, whether it's seniors or, a single person. I'm just curious what the pricing is going to look like on this.
It hasn't been set yet, but I would say, judging on the sales prices in our similar developments, that we're probably looking at mid to high 500s on the bottom and pushing upwards towards 8 and above with the larger homes.
Yeah.
I want to echo the concerns around that private drive. That's problematic. I'm glad you're going to continue to have a conversation on that. That's something that's concerning to me. Other than that, I don't think I have any other comments. Council, other comments? No. All right. Seeing no more discussion, this is informational only, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
There are no more items on our regular agenda this evening, so we'll move on to reports and emerging issues. Attorney Vos, anything from you, sir?
Mayor and Council, I don't have anything other than just I want to jump on the Marty train here and just say I got to work with Marty in another city and then here, and of course a lot of the work that I do for you comes in through planning and development issues, and it's been a pleasure to work with Marty, and it's really nice to work with a city official, and I work with a lot of them, but it's really nice when somebody has sort of doing the right thing as a baseline starting point, so I've appreciated it. So, yeah.
Agreed. Hear, hear. All right, Ms. Hardy, anything from staff?
Nothing from staff, Madam Mayor, thanks.
All right, members of the council, anything?
Oh, just want to say goodbye and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your service to this community.
Thank you. It's been an awesome opportunity. I thank you all for the support. I thank Dana for giving me the opportunity and for her support here and in our previous careers. It's one of those that it's a really difficult move because it's not the work and it's not the people that are driving me away. It's really the people where I'm going that are pulling me there. So absent that, I think I'd still be here, but it's an opportunity for us to get a little closer to family and back to our roots, as Dana mentioned. So
Can't argue with that. All right, council, anything else over here? All right. With that, there are no more items to come before the body this evening, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. How about a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. I fished my gavel out, so we are adjourned.